Howdy folks, Kaloth here, and we may have a problem. With Galactic Legend Leia slated to hit the holotables later this year, the Rebels faction is going to be one of the most important factions in the game, being tied to the latest Galactic Legend as well as the latest raid. But the Rebels faction wasn't exactly a weak faction to begin with. Since Commander Luke Skywalker was added to the game, and he was the first Hero's Journey character added, that squad has been a mainstay in the meta, either meta or meta adjacent for really the duration. I can't remember a time when CLS wasn't important in one game mode or another since his release. One of the big reasons that CLS is so popular today is because of this guy. Threepio and Chewie was added as a marquee leading up to Jedi Master Luke, and Threepio and Chewie really elevated the CLS squad far beyond what it was doing before. In fact, when you think about it now, it's hard to imagine a time when Threepio and Chewie weren't part of CLS, but for several years leading up to that, CLS squad was CLS, Han Solo, Chewbacca, C-3PO, and then usually R2-D2. When Threepio and Chewie came on, that squad really took off with all of his assists and, importantly, his stat sharing. So I want to talk about that and talk about why I think this could be a potential problem for balancing and a potential problem for team building down the road. Let's take a look at SWGOH.gg. Over here, we'll take a look at the wording for the ability, and then I also want to take a look at Commander Ahsoka Tano, because she's one of the best comparisons we have, although it's definitely not a one-on-one because they work very differently, to what Threepio and Chewie does and what it could add to a squad with a Galactic Legend as a lead. Threepio and Chewie's unique ability reads, if the allied leader is a rebel, Threepio and Chewie gain 40% of the leader's max health, max protection, offense, and keep in mind when they say offense, that's special damage and physical damage, defense, and defense is shorthand for armor and resistance, potency and tenacity at the start of the first encounter. And rebel allies gain half that amount, so 20% of the leader's max health, protection, offense, defense, potency, and tenacity. It also goes on to say rebel allies have 15% crit avoidance. Whenever a rebel ally uses an ability, Threepio and Chewie are called to assist, dealing 30% less damage, limit once per turn. If they were defeated, Threepio and Chewie are revived with 50% health and protection whenever another rebel ally is revived. And when enemies are blinded, which Threepio and Chewie has an AoE blind, they have minus 50% tenacity and can't attack out of turn. That's a unique ability, and when you look at older characters have leadership abilities that were much less intense than this unique. This unique has been used to great effect in a lot of different squads, but mainly this has been used in the CLS squad. This is what elevated CLS from kind of an A-team squad to an A-tier squad, rather, to an S-tier squad. CLS is, to date, still one of the best non-Galactic Legend squads in the game, and it's an offensive staple in all levels of PvP all the way up through Kyber 1. So one of the big reasons CLS is so popular is because of this unique and the stat sharing that it provides. Yeah, it provides other things like the attacks out of turn, which are big, especially when you're combining with exposes from C-3PO, but the biggest part of Threepio and Chewie's kit is that stat sharing, where it takes 40% of the leader's max health, protection, all those stats, gives it to Threepio and Chewie, and then 20% gives to the rest of the team, including the leader, assuming that they're a rebel, which obviously Galactic Legend Leia will. So, have we seen this kind of stat sharing with a Galactic Legend before? Not really, but we have something close in Commander Ahsoka Tano. Commander Tano has her unique, gives 50% offense, 50% critical damage, and if another light side unaligned force user, Galactic Republic, or Scoundrel ally is present, she also has 50% health and defense and shares all of these bonuses with her light side allies. Now, it's important to understand, Ahsoka's ability doesn't share 50% of her offense with her other allies. it shares the 50% offense buff with that ally. So, for instance, Jedi Master Kenobi is not getting 50% of Ahsoka's offense when this is shared with him. He's getting 50% of his own offense. Whereas with Threepio and Chewie, they are taking the stats from their Rebel leader and sharing those stats with their other Rebel allies, including that Rebel leader, right? So, not apples to apples here, but close enough that we can kind of talk about what its impact is going to be, because Commander Tano and Jedi Master Kenobi were a oppressive force when first released. Keep in mind, when Jedi Master Kenobi and Commander Tano were released, Grand Arena was not the main source of crystals. Grand Arena was a recurring event that gave you some mod slicing materials and was ultimately relatively skippable and had a lot of kind of odd seasonal themes to it. The main source of crystals when Jedi Master Kenobi and Commander Tano were released was Squad Arena, and that was very much based on one team that could hold on offense and defense. And there was just no comparison to any other squad in the game, including Lord Vader and his unaligned Force user companion, Maul. This was so powerful that I honestly believe when Jedi Master Kenobi and Lord Vader were designed, the idea of GL plus Lifter wasn't really a thing in CG's mind. I really think they were designed as a one-off. It was a way to tie in the new unaligned Force user tag and the new game mode, which was Conquest, as a tie-in to the new latest GLs, and then they would go on and do that. But Commander Tano ended up so powerful when paired with Jedi Master Kenobi that later on CG kind of had to readjust their entire balancing scheme and say that yes, GLs are at this level of power, but there's one level above that, and that is GL plus Lifter, which has led us into things like Ben Solo, who was designed as a lifter for Rey, and we assume that there are going to be more GL lifters coming in the future, right? Why was Commander Tano so strong? Well, one of the reasons why was the instant kill, but something that does not get a lot of focus is these massive stat buffs that she shared with everybody, including her Galactic Legend Leader. So when we look at something like that, I think that's probably the most fair comparison to Threepio and Chewie with the theoretical Rebel GL, which we now know is coming. Now, we don't know Leia's kit. We don't know what she's going to do. We don't even know what team she's going to be built for. It's very possible that she may be built in such a way that you don't really have the bandwidth to put Threepio and Chewie on her squad. Although I have a hard time thinking that could be the case when he has such a powerful unique that counts for her faction. Or CG could update Threepio and Chewie and add a clause in there that just says this ability doesn't work if the allied leader is a Galactic Legend, or if a Galactic Legend is present. They've done that with Omicron abilities before. I can't remember if they've ever done that to a non-Omicron ability, but I'm sure it's possible. That's one way they could do it. Because when you look at JMK and Cat, they were designed in tandem. Jedi Master Kenobi and Commander Tano were designed in the same content cycle. They were always designed to work together. When Jedi Master Kenobi was announced, and they gave his kit reveal, and his kit reveal called out unaligned Force users, and it called out resetting cooldowns on an ally, they said, this may not make sense now, but just watch. And then later on they released Commander Tano, and it all made sense because they were designed together. They were designed to work together. So CG knew, or at least should have known, what they were getting into with those stat sharing. Contrast that with Threepio and Chewie, who is a unit that is several years old at this point. Several years ago, Threepio and Chewie released. The meta has shifted and changed many times since then, and now we're getting Leia. So Leia is coming in as a Galactic Legend on top of this faction that is already loaded with very, very powerful units, including Threepio and Chewie. And it's 100% going to have to be a balanced consideration for CG moving forward. So we may have a problem, and that problem may manifest in a few ways, right? It may manifest in the way of Leia being designed with low stats because they know people will put Threepio and Chewie with her. Or it may manifest in a way that Leia releases with normal GL level stats. They don't really take this into consideration. We've seen that before with releases like Omicron Qui-Gon Jinn, and she ends up overperforming and they have to do some kind of a nerf. Or they may end up impacting it by putting the clause in there that says this doesn't work for Galactic Legends. The big question in my mind, and the thing that I'm going to be looking forward to seeing more of as we get pieces of her kit revealed to us over time, like they've kind of said that they're going to do, is how is she going to work and what team is she going to pull from? Because we know she's not going to use Captain Rex and she's not going to use Nisa. We can pretty well assume that. So those two of her new marquees are already not going to be on her team. We know the upcoming marquee, Drogon, is going to be on her team. So that leaves 3 other spots for Rebels for her to pull into her team. Is she going to dismantle the CLS squad? Is she going to give a home to unused or underused Rebels? Is she going to be a place where, Bodhi Rook and Lobot can go live? Or is she going to pull from Stormtrooper Han, who, has uses with Sana Staros, but doesn't have, like, his forever home, right? It's all a big question, and that's what I'm going to be looking for as we get more news about Galactic Legend Leia. So, what are you looking at? What are you looking for as we learn more about Leia? What are you hoping she's going to represent for the meta? How are you hoping she's going to interact with existing characters like Threepio and Chewie, like the entire CLS squad? What are you hoping her squad is going to look like? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and as always, may the Force be with you.